is, as it says in there, mental welfare coach, has his own business, mental welfare coach. Carl's just going to give you a bit of talk today and go through some things today which will be kind of coping mechanisms. You've heard a lot about stress today, you've heard a lot about mental health today, and we've spoken about when we get to that, but also when we get to that, we're starting to go coping mechanisms to bring you up yourself, okay, and things that can generate a bit of stress, feeling angry that day, things that can help you sort that type of thing out. So Carl, thanks for coming on today, mate. And,
you're more than welcome. To the OC, sirs, mums, ladies and gentlemen that are in the audience, my name's Carl Smith, and I normally have a daytime job saying the UK Hypnosis Academy, but I'm not going to say that today. I'm the mental welfare coach. I'm just going to give you a brief story. And it's amazing, really, that everybody that we're listening to today has got a story. You have got a story as well. Everybody in here has had something that has or will change your life in the future. And I'm going to tell you my story now, and I'm going to show you how I went from the British Army into counter-terrorism firearms, working on every single police firearms incident, death in custody that you'll ever read about in the news, all the way from Jean-Charles de Mendes, all the way through to current, to being a hypnotist, hypnotherapist, and a coach. So, my story begins is I joined the army in '94. I went to 12th Regiment Royal Artillery. Now, before we get into a lanyard thing, please, right, let's keep that one at bay. 12th Regiment Royal Artillery, and I served over there in Paderborn and in Dortmund. So I served in Dortmund first, sorry, and then I went to Paderborn. And I loved my time over in Germany. For those people that have ever had the privilege of being in Germany, you know what I mean by that. I then decided that a career change. There was no point sitting at the end of runways with short air defence missiles. I believed that it was outdated, so I went for my Class 3 as ammo tech. I went through that. I didn't quite have the brains to go for Class 2, so I bailed out and I was sent down to Marchwood and sit on the ammo desk. And I finished off my last 2 years at Marchwood in Southampton, dealing with all the ammunition, which was a great job, but I just decided enough was enough. So I decided, whilst I was on Optelic, and I can't remember which one it was, but I was down at Qasr, for those people who may know the area. I was at Qasr and I decided to join the police. So I filled out my application form whilst I was on there, whilst I was in the, whilst I was at the base down by Scheibe Log base and stuff like that. Didn't think I was going to get anywhere with it. I was then asked to come forward on my R&R to go complete my police assessment, and I went through that. So I left the army on a Friday and then joined the police on a Sunday, which has its pros and its cons. So I joined the police and I loved every minute of it, and I eventually wingled my way through to firearms. I went through to firearms trainers, so I was teaching people how to do firearms training, so I was out and about with people like 22 or down at Poole or other people, other agencies that may operate in and around the country or for international purposes. And that was the type of role I was involved in. I enjoyed it, I loved it. But the biggest problem is that on August the 4th, 2006, while I thought I had quite a normal life, a tragic set of events were going to happen that were outside my scope. On August the 4th, 2006, I was just driven home. I was still in my Blacks uniform. I just finished on the ranges. We'd just been doing counter-terrorism firearms tactics in Norfolk, a place called Watton. I'd driven home, still in my Blacks, parked the car up, walked indoors, was greeted by my little boy Ross, and then all of a sudden there was an enormous bang and a crash, and then all of a sudden everything like just caved in on us. I got outside to realise that there was a Mitsubishi Colt parked at roughly a 40 degree angle in our house and next doors. I was still in police mode, and where I lived, if anyone knows Suffolk at all, I lived in a place near Southwold, and I naturally just assumed that it was an elderly person for the area that we lived in, the demographic in that area. I believed that it was an elderly person that had just lost control of the car. When I got round to the side of the car, unfortunately, it was a drink driver, to which, at that point, I decided that I was going to help this drink driver. I could smell the alcohol in his breath, the panic and everything that was going on, brick dust, there was loads going on. I decided to help him out of his car the best way I could do. And while I was helping him out of his car, because he had his seatbelt on, the only thing that this boy did do right on the day, I did something, and I still to this day don't know why I did it. I wrapped my hand around the seatbelt and carried on hitting him. The problem was, I was then going to walk into more danger because the brick wall collapsed. I got trapped underneath the car and was dragged roughly, they reckon, 70 to 80 yards underneath and alongside the motor vehicle, the Mitsubishi Colt, and then dumped in the road with all of my clothes nigh on ripped off. The reason they know that is because they found my pants, my underwear, my shoes, the whole kit caboodle at the top. Now the key thing is here is that this young gentleman was still in my life because he'd reversed into a cul-de-sac. So what he did was, I'm still grateful for him to this day, is he hit me again and took me all the way home, so I didn't have to walk home. What happened then is he rotated my leg round, snapped my ankle, my patella was round the wrong way, broken limbs, fractured skull, many other different things that were going on, and it was a very weird experience. From one moment of listening to normal daytime TV going on, to popping open a can of beer, to now laying in the road half naked with your next door neighbours looking over you isn't fun, I can tell you that. Anyway, the battle was only going to, the battle for me was only just going to start because the air ambulance, everything turned up. This young lad's driven off into the Ulu, we can't find him. It doesn't really matter, everyone's looking after me. I get to James Paget Hospital in Great Yarmouth, where I'm dealt with, I'm put in plaster casts and dealt with and given strong tablets, one of them being Tramadol. Has anyone got any experience with Tramadol in here? There's hands popping up. Tramadol's one of those little gazettes that people give out. The only problem is it's addictive. So what happened is that the physical pain of what had gone on, my leg being rotated round, the physical pain of all the burns on my arse and all of those type of things and skin being removed, started to fade away over the weeks. So as that started to happen, I started to pull back on the Tramadol, the Pregabalin, the Cocodamols, and all of the other things that they'd shoved me on, which had served a purpose. And I was happy-go-lucky, Carl. I was happy-go-lucky. I don't know why, but for those people who ever served in Germany will understand I still had that element of me still inside me. There was a party goer inside and just could drink ale, and it was, I had a happy life. I had a family and everything was really well. I started to wean myself off of the Tramadol. And at that point, we realized that there was going to be a vicious, horrible thing going to pop its little head up. Once the physical pain had disappeared, we were then going to hit the emotional pain. What the Tramadol and the Pregabalin and the Cocodamol had done was their job. What they had done is mask the pain to allow me to repair my body, to allow me to do certain things. My Achilles had been snapped. Things like that, having that put back on it. It sorted all those things out. But as we weaned off, we started to realize that the Tramadol had been covering up years and years of trauma. What do I mean by that? I joined the army in '94, as I mentioned, but for some people in here, some people may remember I went to Northern Ireland. The first time I did Northern Ireland was in '98. And for those people that are old enough and long enough in the tooth, you'll remember a certain day in August in 1998 when the Omagh bomb went off and 29 people tragically lost their lives. I was one of the first people on scene for that. Follow up with that, I then went to Kosovo, for those people that were in the room that will remember going down that Kačanik defile, and we all bundled into Pristina that day with the what can only genocide in some ways. We ended up being combat social workers, if that sounds right. But yeah, we ended up doing that. So I'd been involved in trauma. There'd been things that had gone on. I'd seen trauma. I'd been involved in war zones. I'd seen the worst and the best of humanity on the way. And this is where my life started to tip round, because those things that happened during '98, during '99, were starting to turn up in 2006. And I'm thinking, why is this image, why is this noise happening right now? For instance, one of the things that was waking me up, I will explain why Peppa Pig's on there in a moment. One of the things that was waking me up that happened in 1998, and we're now talking 2006 coming into 2007, is that when Omagh went off, the QRF bell went, and I was at Besbrook Mill, for those people who ever served over in Northern Ireland, Besbrook Mill, QRF, and when they came past the door, this happened. Get up, get up, get up, ow, 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 like that. Well, didn't really think nothing of it at the time because that's what happened, you know. We were on a call, we were all nodding off on the bunks, nobody thought anything, but when you're in a deep sleep and somebody does that to you, your mind, your body and your mind and your brain will remember certain things like that. 2006, that noise and that get up, get up, get up was the thing that was waking me up in the middle of the night. And I couldn't figure out why. Why is this happening to me now? Why is this happening right now? This happened, I recognised that it happened in 98, but why is it happening now? So, I went on a mission. Obviously, I went down, and by the way, your welfare officer will, Captain Marconi will go through this with you if ever need any support. I'm just going to give you a quick glossary. I was sent to counselling, didn't do anything for me. I'm going to be brutally honest with you this afternoon. It doesn't mean it's not right for you, same as the guy said at the back to you earlier. It was not a modality for me. I went to counselling, didn't do me any favours. CBT did not do me any favours whatsoever. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. Doesn't mean it doesn't work for some of you in here. But for me, cognitive behavioural therapy turned into cognitive behavioural torture for me, okay? And the key thing is that it wasn't doing me. Now, it doesn't mean that you guys and girls in this room will benefit from this. Some of you will. But what happened was that I went through CBT and counselling, and it then turned out that these just weren't working. It just weren't working. It was driving me insane. Who here has been to Woodbridge before? I take it most of you in this room. So you all know the Orwell Bridge. That big bridge just before you're going into Woodbridge, or you've just left Woodbridge, you'll be going over a big grey bridge that takes you from Ipswich over to the other side of over to the Woodbridge side, let's say. What happened is that I'd done the CBT, I'd done the counselling, I started to hit the bottom. I was like, no, this isn't happening, and I needed to cover up. I'd started to become a drug addict on tramadol. Basically, I'd gone from happy-go-lucky, you know, happy-go-lucky police officer, doing a job I thoroughly enjoyed, to now being Carl the drug addict and Jack Daniels being my best friend. And what do I mean by that? It got to the point where when my wife at the time was hiding my tramadol to stop me taking it, and what I did is I tipped the sofa up, a brand new sofa, and I got a carving knife and ripped the whole bottom off because I believed that I dropped them down the side, right? Little things like that were starting to happen. I was becoming very aggressive with my child, with Ross. Not physically, just emotionally, just being nasty. I was being a horrible shit. To this day, he's 23 years old now, so we just sit here and laugh about it. On the same token, I wasn't right. I wasn't fair. I wasn't fair to my wife either. And my family, my mum and dad, the friends, everybody who tried to help me, I just didn't want to know. I was just telling them, is anyone offended by bad language? Thank fuck for that. So the thing is that I was telling everyone to fuck off. Just fuck off and leave me alone and let me deal with this. I know what I'm doing. I've done my time in the army. I'm a counter-terrorist firearms officer. Fuck off, all of you. And that's what it was. But it wasn't working. And I drove pissed. From probably 15 miles north of Woodbridge, from a place called Southwold, for anyone who knows that area. Let's go for Lowestoft on the coastline up there. Drove all the way down there to the Orwell Bridge, drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels while pumping as much as I could into my system, not caring, which is really sad. But at that moment in time, I didn't care. I didn't care about myself. I didn't care about others. I didn't care what I was going to do. I just needed to go end this naughty noise. So I drunk my Jack Daniels, and I rammed as much tramadol that I'd scurried away down my neck, parked my car at the petrol station at the bottom of the Orwell Bridge, which most of you may know, parked my little car there, walked up the Orwell Bridge, got onto the parapet, got over the top, and as I got over the top, the black jacket that I was wearing caught on the parapet face. So now I'm over the other side, upside down, pissed, on drugs, upside down, now facing the bottom of the Orwell Bridge. To which then, all I saw was the blue lights, and then I got dragged back over to the other side to where I was greeted by two of my colleagues. Not that I knew them, but two police officers and in an ambulance. And plus I'd blocked the Orwell Bridge for an hour or so apparently. So, but there it is. So I'd hit the bottom. That's why I posed that question earlier about when did you know? When did you know that it was bottom? And the key thing is that obviously I'd been through the CBT and I'd been through the counselling, didn't work, and I believed that life was over. This was life. You're going to get the bang, bang, bang. That's it. You're having that for the rest of your life. You're going to be aggressive. You're going to be horrible. Your wife's going to leave you, and your kids, you know, your little one's going to hate you. Simple as. And there was a friend of mine. Has anyone ever heard of neurolinguistic programming? NLP? Anyone ever heard of that? I'm going to go through it in a moment. Neurolinguistic programming. It's a very interesting tool in the subject, especially for managers, if you want to get the best out of your crews. But on the same token, NLP, or neurolinguistic programming, is the way that we talk in our behaviours and the way that we model excellence, okay? So we look at excellence, then we model it, okay? That's what we do. And this guy said, I do NLP. And I said, okay. And he said, I also do a thing called hypnosis. And I went, fuck off. I'm from Great Yarmouth. Anyone in here from anywhere know that? It's East Anglia, Great Yarmouth, on that seaside resort. And the only reference I had to hypnosis was what most of you were thinking straight away. You're going to turn me into a fucking chicken. And that's all I had. You're going to make me dance around here like a fucking idiot, aren't you? And he said, no, let me educate you, because hypnosis isn't what you think it is. And I said, no, well, that's fair, cops, let's have a look at it. And I went in with an open mind, thinking, shit, what's he going to do to me? The first session this serving police officer did with me, it was just like something happened. I said, what did you just do? And he said, oh, we'll have a crack again then. Well, let's have another crack. And he did it, and then something else came out. Everything from my childhood, I've got loving parents, by the way. I've got a great parents. You know, Christmas time I could do without them, but on the same token, you know, I've got great parents, so I had a good upbringing, you know, foot up the arse type scenario, but nothing too spectacular in my childhood. And I had a lovely life, but on the same token, little things that happened. I was thinking, why did that just come up? That's really weird. That came up. Then all of a sudden Kosovo turned up, then all of a sudden Northern Ireland turned up, then all of a sudden the UN peacekeeping tour in Cyprus. Now you'd think that was going to be normal, but on the day, week one, somebody climbed up a Turkish flagpole right in front of us and got shot. Greek went up the flagpole. Does anyone know anything about Cyprus before I'm talking about this? The UN line, peacekeeping line that goes through Nicosia all the way through. And yeah, we had a Greek Cypriot go up the flagpole, and the Turkish decided they didn't like it, so they just shot him, and he just fell down straight in front of us. And it was just like, these little things were popping up. So I got intrigued with hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and it became like a box of Pringles. I'll be brutally honest, it became like a big box of Pringles. Pop, 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 until eventually it went. And the key thing for me is I'm not here to sit here and say hypnosis, because I've got more tricks up my sleeve. But on the same token, I'm in a position now where August the 4th, 2006 was the worst day of my life. But it actually turned out to be the best day of my life. Because after a 12-year career in the police and realising I didn't want to push tasers any further or play around with carbines and stuff like that, I left the police 6 years ago now. And I started my own business with coaching and working with hypnosis. And in that time, I've had the privilege, because of that incident on August 4th, 2006, I've had the privilege to work with many stars, actors. I've worked on TV programs. Anyone in here watches Beverly Hills Housewives, anything like that? I've been on that. I've worked with Boy George. I've worked with Alan Sugar's team. And all because of a drink driver that changed my life. And I never, ever, ever, ever thought that while I was sat in green uniform, that I'd ever be in a position where I would be having such a whale of a time, doing TV, doing radio. When Darren Brown or Paul McKenna don't want the shows, I'd probably get the call. There's a few of us that will be on the list for a hypnotist or somebody that can do that type of stuff. And I've had a very privileged career since that day in August the 4th, 2006. And my point is on there, is if you are going through anything, the worst day of your life can actually become the best day of your life. And like we heard earlier about that moment where a calling came, when a process happened that day, that worst day was his best day because it gave him a new opportunity. So just remember that when you are sat there and something is going Pete Tong, you think it's all going shit and a big barrel of shit, that if you think you're at the bottom, the only way's up, okay? So I just want to leave you with that one. So I'm just going to leave this now. I'm just going to go through some simple psychology. I'm going to take you through some simple psychology about why we do, as humans, why we do what we do, okay? I'm going to take you through a process in a moment that each and every single one of you in this room does. And I'm going to need people to participate with me today on a couple of things. I will not embarrass you. I'm not going to hypnotize you yet. No, I won't hypnotize anyone. But I will be needing people to come up. Now, the key thing is simple psychology. It's all well and good listening to understanding these stories about what we've all been through. Every single one of you's got a story, by the way. You don't have to be in the army, be a counter-terrorism police officer, and get run over by a drink driver to have a story. So let me tell you basically why you're doing what you're doing, which will give you an understanding on why you do certain things in your life. Why you may think that you are an individual and you're the only one this fucking shit's happening to. And let me tell you now, you're not, because we all do the same. Okay, simple psychology. And then I'm going to get on to why Peppa Pig is laying drunk on the floor. That'll come in a moment. Okay, let me just go through this. Your head, your brain, is divided into two hemispheres. Left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. Best way to remember it is left for logic, right for emotions. Okay? Left for logic, right for emotions. Your left brain deals with your ABCs, your 1, 2, 3s. Your right brain deals with creativity and emotions. Okay? Emile Coué, 18th century, a famous Swiss physician, once said, if there's conflict between the emotion and the intellect, the emotion will always win. How many of you in this room have ever had an argument with a partner or a friend or a boss and you've gone, you walk out the office and you continue that argument on in your head? How many of you done it? Every single one of you has had an argument with somebody and carried it on until eventually they might come back an hour later, 2 hours later, 3 hours later, and they come in the office, hey, how are you getting on? Like, fucking that. Hang on a minute, what's going on? What's going on? It's because what's happened is your emotion has kicked in, right? Now, your emotion's overridden your logic. Your logical brain's going, what are you doing? Why are you having this argument still? Okay, there's no point to it, right? Don't know what's going on there. So, there we go, muted. So there we go. I thought it was me for a minute. Okay, so so if there's conflict between the left and the right emotion, the right emotion, so your creativity, your emotional brain will always override, okay? Okay, so we've got that going on. Left for logic, ABCs. Right brain is for your emotions. Sat in the middle are component parts in your brain. The amygdala, corpus callosum, many other different component parts in your brain, which I do not need to go through right now, but you just need to know that they're there and they're doing certain things. One of those systems is sitting there giving us what's called fight, flight, freeze. Fight, flight, freeze, 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 fight, flight, freeze. Okay, and then what happens then is that something happens, we spontaneously do something. Can I just borrow you for a second, please? It's all right, it's only a brief demo. Just, if you could just put your hands behind your back, or just to the side, it's entirely up to you. If I just, like that, what happened autonomously just then? You flinched. Cheers, thank you very much. Round of applause for this. What an advert for the Royal Engineers. But you did. Every single one of you, if I'd have brought you up here, would have flinched. Body's coming up here, doesn't think am I going to do anything? Fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, freeze. Fight, I'm going to verbally or physically fight something. Flight, I'm going to run away. Freeze, I'm going to curl into a ball. Every single one of you has gone through that. A fight, a flight, or a freeze. And you'll start to recognize it now. When men get man flu, well, in my case, I tend to lay on the couch, pull a duvet up, Coco and Devil Wears Prada. Anyone else want to admit to that? No, I didn't think you would. But anyway, so the key thing is that's a freeze thing. That's a freeze. I've frozen. My body's gone into freeze mode, yeah? If I get a bill, like was mentioned on the financials this morning, and I get a bill or I get something that's happened, and you've had an argument with a partner, fuck this, I'm getting in the car, off you go. off in a little rage. Or the bill comes in, lift all the other bills up, stick that one underneath it. I'll deal with that later on. That's a flight. Fight, we all know what that is. We're either going to physically or verbally fight our way out of something. Make sense? What you just saw then was fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, freeze. I'm keeping you alive, keeping you alive, keeping you alive. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to keep you alive. I'm going to protect you. I threw the ball, bang. The amygdala inside the brain just pops open. When it pops open, that part that's doing the fight, flight, freeze in the middle of your head, when it sits there doing this and it pops open, what happens is it fires off cortisols. Cortisols are a great way, steroidal things. What they do is that when we had the flinch just then, when we do anything like that, what happens is if I throw a baseball at somebody or I throw something, they do this, yeah? You need the electrical impulses and the energy to do that. Make sense? Right. So in a moment ago when I threw that, what happened is fight, flight, freeze, nothing's happening. Just put your hands behind your back. I threw the ball, bang, opens up. Cortisols get fired out, flinch, eyes closed, head drop back, hands are now about to come forward. Yeah, we've all done it. We've all done pranks before where that's happened. Now, interesting is that the ball, I won't throw it at you again, by the way, but when I then said that's the end of the demo, his subconscious, unconscious, that part of the brain that was doing the controlling, just went, okay then, you know, I get where you're going. I get where you're going with this. That's fine. Okay, I get where you're going. So it just closes down. Fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, freeze. Nothing to really worry about, nothing to look about here. Just a prat with a kid's toy playing up. That's all that's happening. So we're sitting there doing this, fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, freeze. But now let's take it to something where it wasn't as simple as me just throwing a ball. Let's take it to conflict. Let's take it to road traffic collisions. Let's take it to domestic violence, where we remember, now you heard on the previous presentation, things about parents and stuff like that. Well, the key thing is that when we learn a learned behaviour, it sits in the fight, flight, freeze system, okay? We have bereavements in life. Don't like bereavements. I don't like getting hit by a car. I don't like seeing car accidents. I don't like going to conflicts where there's rounds pinging off. I don't like this. I don't like that. My sister's a shit. All of this, it learns. And what you'll get is this. All those learned behaviours are going inside here and not allowing this ball to close. And if this ball can't close, guess what's happening? Fucking, you are quick like that. Does that make sense? You are very quick to react to things that you wouldn't normally do. The key thing is about how do we release those. And I'm going to show you those later on. I'm going to show you some techniques and some ideas that I've taught all over the world and show you how you can release these. Now, the key thing is that as we go through life, and if we don't rest, we don't find a modality that works for us, this just keeps growing. My job, in the way that I work, which is called content free. Right, so let me just clarify something for you. Who here in this room seriously thinks that every time you go to therapy that you must tell the therapist everything? I would say most of you think that you've done that before, where you think you go into a therapist and they tell me what happened when you were 3 years old and all that type of shit, yeah? With that nodding dog thing, yeah? They're going like that. And the key thing is that with content-free hypnosis, there's one thing that you have to remember. The issue's never the issue. If you come to a therapist and you've got anxiety, it's not anxiety. If you go with post-trauma, it's not post-trauma. If you go with weight loss problems, it's got nothing to do with weight loss. The issue is never the issue. It's an accumulation of stress that are causing you to do something. So when you have a panic attack, or when you have a moment or a fleeting glimpse of anger or something that pops up, that's just the show. That's not the real McCoy. That's not what's really going on. That is merely a show. Post-trauma, if you want, for somebody who's been through it, and somebody who works with people on a daily basis with post-trauma, in my personal opinion, is nothing but accumulative stress that's built up and built up. And if you imagine, for the older ones in the room, a pressure cooker. Am I still on camera? I keep walking around. a pressure cooker. If you imagine a pressure cooker, at the very bottom, am I still on camera if I move? You have to let me know. Right, so at the bottom is the fight, flight, freeze at the bottom of a pressure cooker, okay? Fight, flight, freeze. That's good stress. Need that. We need that to keep alive. But life's not that happy. Not that happy. It's not Cinderella, as it's been brought up by one of the speakers already. Life isn't Cinderella. There are no bears, there are no honeypots, and it's all a load of bullshit. But we're all brought up thinking that life is going to be like that. So we've got the fight, flight, freeze at the bottom, good stress. Then all of a sudden, bereavements, family arguments, domestic violence, all of the other stuff that builds up in life and builds up and builds up and builds up until eventually our pressure cooker at the top starts to feel that pressure. Now, some of you may release it by hobbies or going to therapy or doing what you're doing in life that reduces that pressure down. That's brilliant. But when you don't let go of that pressure cooker and that pressure cooker keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, if somebody doesn't grab that valve on the top and pulls the valve up and goes, then guess what? That pressure will keep going until you go bang. And that's where post-trauma sits, where it's sitting at the top of that valve, feeling like it's now going to explode. And I know that from my personal experience. Anyone else who's been diagnosed in the room, or anyone who's got severe anxieties or other things that are going on, you'll be able to associate that. My personal opinion is, if you look at it this way, you look at post-trauma, severe anxiety, and reframe it, you'll change your life. Because there's one thing that I will mention, is that people love to have an identity. When we're diagnosed with post-trauma, that's all well and good, because it gives us a reason and it gives us an understanding of why we're doing what we're doing. But post-trauma for different people is completely different. So when doctors are reading it and they're doing a checklist, tick, 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 yeah, you've got post-trauma, or you didn't quite squeeze that box there, they won't give you the label. The key thing is that labels are good, but when people identify themselves with the label, that's when the problems really, really kick off. And you'll see it. I have post-trauma. I suffer with post-trauma. Now, this may sting for a couple of you, but suffering is a choice. I'm just going to leave that one there for a minute. I'll come back to that later on. But suffering is a choice. Okay? I'll leave that one there and I'm going to come back to it later on. The key thing is that having a label will support you and help you. It's when people own that label, that's when it starts to deteriorate. My job is to show people how to rip that label up. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do for the next half an hour. I'm going to go through some stuff. How long do you want me on for? Oh, this lot like, not that long. Come on. So, key thing is, why's Carl got Peppa Pig up the front? Why's Carl got Peppa Pig sat at the front? Anyone got any ideas? It is my favourite toy and it gets me to sleep and stops the banging noise. Apart from that, I need 4 volunteers. 4 volunteers. You two guys at the end. Boss, can I borrow you? And you, young sir. Okay, if I could have you just stand behind me for a second. Let me just go through this. Your body is a battery. Your body is a battery. You are what you eat. I'm going to come on to nutrition very shortly. You are what you eat. Now, this next phase, I don't want any cameras out. I don't want any phones out. And the reason being is because I don't want anyone to be blackmailed, right? So the key thing is that you are an energy source. You need energy to do what you're doing. If you're misusing your energy with your fight, flight, freeze mechanism, guess what happens? Gents, if I could ask you to touch fingertips with each other, please. Not hold hands, because this lot would have a field day with it. Okay, if I could ask you to come around this way, and ask you to come in this way. Okay, what I want you to do is just hold Peppa Pig just there on that silver bit there. And what I want you to do is I want you to hold Peppa Pig on the other silver bit there. Right, let me just stop, right? Let me just stop. I've done this presentation with LAPD, I've done it, and every single one, have I mentioned this before, haven't I? Every single one goes, it's not going to fucking blow me up, it's not going to fucking shoot me, it's not going to do anything. Hold it. Sure. Yeah, go on. Oh. Right, all I want you to do is you take your hand off, put it back on. Okay, I'm just going to prove a point to you, right? Just let go. Okay, what's happening? right? What's happening is we've caused an electrical circuit. Energy, electricity is banging around our bodies to do this. Just hold it again. Boss, if you want, just move your finger and put it back on when you're ready. Do it again. There you go. Yeah? We finished it. We're just letting you guys play now. But no, you know, at the end of the day, thanks very much for that. But the point being is there anyone who disbelieves that what I've just done then? Stick your hands up if you don't, because I'll throw Peppa Pig at you and you can have a play. But the thing is that with Peppa Pig, what that did then, with those 4 gents then, is it caused an electrical circuit. Yes, this is a battery-operated toy, and yes, I need to cause a loop. I did it with 4 people. The most I've ever done it with before was 108 people, which is a significant number in spiritual lines, but 108 people in Los Angeles. 108 people in a big circle just doing that, and everyone going, is it going to fucking spark me? No, like that. But the thing is that holding hands and doing that electrical circuit. It's vitally important that you recognize that your body is one big battery. It is a huge battery. You are what you eat. If your fight, flight, freeze are continuously doing this, what are you doing? You are expending energy and just discharging energy that you do not need to know. That's why when we see people with mental health issues or problems in their life, they're always knackered, they're always doing stuff, or they're just going to bed early, or they're really pushing through and trying to stay up late at night. Because that's what happens. The byproduct of that, and I am really coating over a load of stuff here, but the byproduct of that is that when we're in search of energy, what do? Eat shit. Not literally. Might be a couple of you in the room, but anyway. But the thing is that we eat shit. We go for the Mars bars, we go for the marathons, we go for the clacky bars, we go for all of that stuff, the crisps, the junk, the rubbish. And what happens is you have a massive glycemic spike and then a drop. Who here notices if they have a can of Coke, they feel really knackered about an hour and a half later? Because what's happened is you've had the spike of sugar, had all the energy, and then all of a sudden it dumps off. And then we come back in. So if you look at it like a heartbeat, it goes bang, drop off, then we start to level out, and then the body starts to kick out all of the sugars and all of the stuff. Who here, it's a funny thing, who here likes Monster or Red Bull? Yeah? Okay. Who here drinks bull semen? All those people that just put your hands up with Red Bull? Yeah, guess what it's got in it? Taurine. If you look at what taurine is a chemical produced in bull semen. So basically you're drinking bull jizz, right? So you might as well just go down that route there. So if anyone ever walking down, if you see anyone walking with a can of Monster in their hand or Red Bull in future, you'll just sit there and go, yeah, you fucker, like that. But that's the key thing about it, is it has that enzyme in it. There's many other little enzymes as well, but the sugar content is one of the biggest. However, that chemical component is in there to make you spike, to give you that. And you can go look at this, go look all this stuff up. And it does that. When I lived in Paderborn, did I get crates and crates of Red Bull to drive all the way from Paderborn back to sunny Great Yarmouth? Of course I bloody did. But on the same token, I didn't realise the implications of what it was happening on our bodies. Go back to the time for the elders in the group when we were all told don't eat too much fat, bad fat, saturated fats. Don't have too much bad fat. Clogs up the old arteries. Remember that? Did anyone ever teach you that by having sugar, too much sugar in your system, clogs up your nervous system? Anyone teach you that? Because they just have. If you drink sugar and it goes into your nervous system, what happens is it acts like a bit of a barrier, for want of a better word. The sugar goes in, and what happens is those electrical impulses go, oh, fight, flight, freeze. Then they go, thump, hit a load of stodge, and then build up and build up and build up. That's why we are seeing in today's world, I mean, I'm only 47, but when I was growing up, I was falling in dog shit and falling out of trees, and I did falling in rivers, whatever. I did all that type of stuff. But we're now finding And I burned my energy off, like some of the elders in the room will know. We used to burn our energy off. We were out, you know. Light came up at 8 o'clock and I didn't come back till 8 o'clock at night, you know. That was the way I was as a kid. But I burned the energy off. In today's world, that's not burning energy off. That's not disputing that some kids do go out. They've got skateboards, BMXs and all that. But we are seeing a lot more people just sitting there doing this. That's what happens. Now, I don't dispute, I've got an Xbox, but on the same token, I do know, right, I've got to put that down, I'm now off, you know, because I've got to work for a living. But on the same token, you're not dissipating the energy. Does that make sense? So your Peppa Pig isn't working properly. That's why I do that demonstration. Your Peppa Pig, if you're not eating the right things and eating all the bad things, if you're doing that, guess what's going to happen? You'll clog your system up, and then what happens is the fight, flight, freeze mechanism doesn't work properly. When the fight, flight, freeze mechanism doesn't work properly, it builds up, it builds up, it builds up and builds up until eventually, guess what? Bang! And then it all comes tumbling out. And that's where the choices come. And all I can say to you is that I ask you, as of today, because, and this is another thing as well, has anyone ever tried giving up sugar before? How hard was it for you?
Very difficult when you've got a house full of daughters and got a bottom drawer full of chocolate.
There you go. And the other thing, what's the side effects, sir, on when you stop the sugar? Or did you stop it yourself? Tiredness, headaches. Has anyone tried giving up coffee before or caffeine? When you try to give up coffee or caffeine or sugar, bear in mind that sugar is more addictive than heroin. I came off of sugar. I've reduced my content. I used to be NATO standard, tea and coffee. Don't drink tea and coffee anymore because caffeine has an adverse effect on my body. So I just drink like flowery tea, you know, like the elderberry or whatever, them type of teas. I don't drink tea or coffee. I used to be an absolute monster on them. 8, 9 a day cups of coffee, but I was realising that caffeine and the amount of sugar, two sugars in a coffee, you bang that up to 7, 8 coffees on a shift. You're banging in a lot of sugar there. So I reduced all of that out of my system and I was able to think more clearly. And what I ask you to do is to look at that as if you've got mental health, negative mental health issues. We hear about mental health. Mental health is not just about mental health, it's negative. You've got good mental health and bad mental or poor mental health. Does that make sense? So if you're having or have poor mental health issues, look at what you're eating. Does anyone understand what a pre and probiotic is? No? Okay. You may have seen them as Actimel or other things like that that are on the telly, yeah? Okay. I'm going to say a couple of things in a minute. By the way, I'm recording this. It's not going anywhere. Captain Marconi's having it because I'm going to give you a lot of information. If you want it, you can bloody well have it. Just ask Captain Marconi and he'll give it to you so you can recoup on what I'm doing. Pre and probiotics. Pre and probiotics are in your in your gut. And basically what happens is that your gut has all of these little enzymes that run around it. So imagine your stomach's like this, it's round, and then you've got little tentacles. As the food passes through, enzymes hit the food, break it down until eventually it goes through the digestive system and passes out the other end, yeah? So we strip out all the good things. So these little tentacles are doing that. I am over-flagging this, by the way, but I'm just trying to just to demonstrate what's going on. Okay, imagine these little tentacles get full of fat, sugar, and crap. They won't work properly. Does that make sense? They won't work properly. What your gut flora does, I'm going to say Actimel, but I'm going to say don't buy Actimel. Actimel, which you'll see on the TV, which is about your good gut flora and all that, is a bit like housekeepers. What happens is that these things, the enzymes come along and eat all the crap in between. What you do is they clear your gut, so when you eat food, you digest it and get out more nutrients and stuff like that, yeah? So the key thing is these pre and probiotics. Now the reason I bring up Actimel is that some people will sell you a product that's not good for you, believe it or not. And some products are actually high in sugar when they shouldn't be, okay? So the first top tip is, I want you, and anyone who's listening to me on the camera at the moment, is not go buy it, but to understand what I'm talking about more and about the benefits of having good gut flora and about good gut, is have a look at a website called Chuckling Goat. I'm not saying go buy anything, but it's probably one of the best sites in England to go read in layperson's terms about what the product does. It's goat's milk, and what it is rotten goat's milk, for want of a better word. Most people will be like that now. What the fuck is he on about over there? It's not as bad as it sounds. It's fizzy milk, for want of a better way. But what it does do is it cleans your gut out. I firmly believe that when people are talking about negative mental health, what I firmly believe is there's 3 brains. There are 3 brains in our body. When we see studies, they keep concentrating on the grey matter, but there's 3 brains. 1, 2, and 3, your gut. And if you imagine, I'll come on to the heart in a moment, if you imagine now that your gut, not anyone else's, your gut is like the Amazon forest. If we lose the Amazon forest, that ecosystem, if we lose the ecosystem called the Amazon forest down in South America, what happens to the planet? We're fucked. Because we've got nothing to clean out all of the carbon dioxide out of and clean the oxygen and everything like that, yeah? And produce oxygen. That's why it's so important that we keep the Amazon. If you look at your gut like an ecosystem on itself that needs all of these chemicals and all of these bits and bobs, all of these little microorganisms to ferret around and clean up and tidy up all of the shite that you've put into the system, if you look at it like that you need to do that, then you'll look after yourself even better. And all I can ask you to do is go look at what's called gut flora, okay? Really, really important. Some of you are thinking, I don't need that shit. But I'm telling you now, once you look after your gut, the whole lot falls into line. Because your heart, believe it or not, is a power unit. It's Peppa Pig. It's driving, it's an energy, it's banging away. From the moment you started on this planet to the moment you leave this planet, it's going to be doing this, burning away on energy. And in science, there's a thing called heart math. It's an American thing because we call it maths, but it's called heart math. And what they do is they look at what's called the toriad field, the energy field around us. Now, I'm not going to go down the woo-woo train. I'm not going to go too far on that one, but you do produce energy. You do produce energy. And you do produce energy from your heart. It's as simple as that. Your body produces it. Has anyone ever been in this room before? And have you ever sat there and somebody's walked into the room you've never met, you've never done anything with, and you just think, just don't fucking like you. Just don't fucking like you. Or all of a sudden you just go, all right, and you've got this thing going on. Does that make sense? There's another world that I could go down there, but I'm not going to do it this afternoon. But energy levels, your electricity, your energy levels in your body, if they're up or low, can do that. And when we find people in Facebook groups, now I'm not being disparaging about anything, but fibromyalgia, they're the best ones to go into. You go into fibromyalgia and say, I've got a technique and an idea where I can help you with your fibromyalgia in probably 1 or 2 hours compared to the 1 or 2 months that you've been doing it with a doctor by showing them certain techniques and how to use their nutrition, stuff like that, you will get attacked because their identity. You will get attacked like nobody's business. If I went into a group and I said, oh, I can help you with post-trauma and get rid of it probably in 1 or 2 sessions, bring that pressure cooker down, you'll get attacked by people whose identity it is. But what you are also finding as well is a community, a well-being, that part there, that community there, where they're all on the same thing there. Same as you, same as everybody in this room. You've got different squadrons, and then you've got the regiment. So what happens is that in your different squadrons, you have a community, you have a being, but you have a purpose. There's a job, a place for you. There's your pack, we're pack animals. There's a pack, but then when you're out down the town, you don't worry about that pack. You're in the big pack because you're out with probably regimental friends. Does that make sense? So when you look at it like that, when people are like that, you've got to figure that out, where the energies are, where your purpose is. And that's one of the key things, purpose. I'm going to mention another thing now. Does anyone listen to Audible books? Anyone listen to Audible? What I want you to do is, it doesn't matter, it's not a sin, by the way, to do it. I do it quite often. I'm driving along and I stick an Audible book on. If you're interested in mental health, there's a book that there's 2 books actually I want you to go look out for. One's called Lost Connections by Johann Hari. I can make this available if you haven't got a notepad and pen, you're interested, about depression. Johann Hari, Lost Connections. Really, really good book, and will blow a couple of things out of the water for you, because it's been fought for many years, but depression isn't just about an internal thing that's going on. It's an external thing. Now, don't put your hands up, because your OC's at the back, and I want to. But how many people have been into work and gone like that? I fucking hate this job. Fucking army. Fucking. Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah. Fuck this. I'm signing off. I'm off. I've had enough. I'm going down. I'm going to sign off. Years ago, we were talking about this morning. Apparently, you do it on computer now. You had to go do the. Years ago, you used to do the walk of shame to the RHQ. Go up to the clerk and say, "I'd like to sign off," and everyone go, "Ooh," like that. But no, you don't have to do it now. But the key thing is that when you're doing, when you're on that, when you leave the army, the reason that most people, and we find veterans, have a problem in coming back into society is because they no longer have that squadron or that company or that regiment. And then we know that, that's fundamental basics. But on the same token, there isn't that on the other side of the fence. There isn't that on the other side of the fence. Coming from me from being a civvy, I did 12 years, and that camaraderie that you find in the army, I've still got, and I'm sure that the OC and some of the seniors in the room have still got people from 20, 30 years ago that they did basic training with that still keep in contact with them. Because there's that mutual belonging, there's a team thing, there was something that went on. I still have, there's still friends of mine in a WhatsApp group, we just sit there abusing each other all day long, but it's still that community. And what happens in depression is we get these lost connections. You get lost connections. And when people leave the military, it's because they don't have that connectivity with the rest of they don't have that connectivity that you did have in this environment. Does that make sense? So it's really important that when you are planning on leaving, that you plan on what you're doing. What was it? Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance, all of that type of stuff, isn't it? What you've got to do is plan. If you are planning on leaving the military, know where you're going and have that business lined up. Know what you're going into. Yeah, because that's where a lot of problems happen with, especially when I'm working with veterans and stuff like that. They don't, and it's been concreted by reading that book. Another book as well that I'd like you to look at is called The Chimp Paradox by Stephen Peters. Anyone ever read that? Yeah, it's a very simplistic book. I'm Royal Artillery. I could read the book. Don't worry about that. Right, so the key thing is it's a very good book for you to go have a look at as well. Stephen Peters, Johann Hari, Lost Connections, and Steve Peters with the Chimp Paradox. Really good book for you to go learn and understand why you're doing what you're doing. Not too dissimilar to what I've discussed today. So the key thing is that if you understand why you're doing certain things, you then have self-help. One of the key things that I've always found, who is the biggest in the room? Who does all the weights? Who's the protein guy? Come on, big fella. Don't worry about it. Here's one thing that I'm going to teach you. We spoke about neurolinguistics. Fucking hell, you are a big lad. What? Oh, you're a GTI as well. Are you a G? Oh, no. So the key thing is, are you really? So the key thing is that the power of words is really, really powerful. You know, I mentioned about neurolinguistic programming, okay? It's a vast subject, and it's basically modeling excellence. Okay, so I'm going to show you the power of words, okay? Ready? Have you got any shoulder injuries? I'm not going to do anything funky with you, okay? Just put your arm out like so. All I want you to do, my fella, all I want you to do is I just want you to do me a favour. Just try and stop me from pushing your arm down. Ready? Just try. Just try. Okay, cool. What's your telephone number backwards? Doesn't really matter. Put your arm up. Okay, this time you will fucking stop me from moving your arm. You will stop me, yeah? Okay, release. What's your telephone number backwards? 25. Doesn't really matter. What I want you to do now, this time, I just want you to do me a favour. Just try. Just really, really try as much as you can to stop me from doing it, right? Ready? Try. Just try. Cool. What was the three things that just happened then? What was the three things? What was the first statement? Try. What was the second statement? You will. What was the third statement? Try. If you use the word try, it is a failure button. If you use the word try, cheers, thank you very much. If you use the word try in any of your words, except for me, who I need the word try, I need the word try in my vocab for certain things when I'm in a therapeutic environment doing things with people. But if somebody comes in and says, I want to try and give up smoking, what do you think is going to happen? The square root of fuck all is going to happen. That's what's going to happen, right? If they say, I want to try, and then I re-educate them and say, come back when you will give up smoking, what do you think is going to happen? They will. When somebody says to you, I want you to try a little bit harder on a BFT, or I want you to try a little bit harder on a CFT, or I want you to try a little bit harder at school, especially for you parents in the room, I want you to try a little bit more, try not to be a naughty boy. You have given them a window of, fuck you. That's what you've done. You've given a window of, well, I'm going to give a shit, what's the consequence? But if you change that word try to will, guess what will happen? If you say, I will do that, guess what will happen? When I had my accident, I was told, because of the injuries to my leg, that I would never run a marathon. So 3 years later, I went and ran a marathon. Don't do any more, don't do anything else stupid. So I went and did Land's End John O'Groats in 8 days on a push bike. In a push bike, not on a car, by the way. Didn't just drive up there. But I push biked it all the way up there, all 997 miles of it, if I believe it right. And still with that, I go to Nepal every year and take a team with me up to base camp in Everest. We've got no Nepalis in the room, have we? No. But in the same token, I go to Nepal every year because I know I will do it. Does that make sense? When somebody said to me, you can't, one of the first things that I thought is, that's not going to work with me anyway. I'm not of that mindset. But then when I started to learn about try and will, then guess what? And if you stop trying and you do it and say, no, I'm going to fucking do this. I am going to do this. I will do this. I will do this. If you change your mindset and just flick over from that one word, guess what will happen in your life? Guess what will happen in your life? That's all I'm going to say to you, is it will change. If you make that cognitive decision, if you say, I'm going to do that, I will run a marathon. I mean, you might not be able to run a marathon straight away because you've still got to incrementally train to do that type of thing. But it's no longer a marathon once you've taken the first pace. Because anyone who's ever done a marathon before knows it's 26.2 miles. But as soon as you start and you put 1 foot over it, it's no longer a marathon. It's no longer a marathon once you've started. Because it's no longer 26.2 miles. Same as any journey that you're doing as well. Break it down like that, reframe it, look at it from a different angle. So when you start to run a marathon, when you're at the back line, yeah, you're fine, you're now about to do a marathon. As soon as you step over it, you're no longer in a marathon. It's no longer 26.2 miles. Just look at things like that. Now, how long, Paul, how long do you want me for? Yeah. So what we're going to do is, especially for you, if I'm still on video, I keep walking around, is I'm going to show you some techniques now. Now, when I was sat in your chair in 1994 and somebody would have been talking about this in mental health, I'd have gone, fucking jog on. I'd have been like that, not a chance. I'm not going to listen to what you're talking about. The reason I introduced that, and I've done this before, I've done this presentation before, and especially with Peppa Pig, is to show you how to re-energize your batteries. And I'm going to show you something now that will help you fire up your battery system. There's another way of doing it as well. There's this little energy stick, but that sounds really spooky, that, doesn't it? What do we like? Do we like Peppa Pig or do we want this one? Yeah, everyone wants Peppa Pig, don't they? They're like that. So, stand still, the front rank. So the key thing is that I'm going to show you something now. Now, has anyone ever heard of Chinese medicine before? Acupressure, acupuncture, all of those type of things there. I'm going to show you a technique and an idea now, which is derived, in, I think it was the early 70s that somebody picked up on this. But something, if I show you now, and everybody on camera as well, I want to make sure I'm still on camera for this, is that if you do this every morning when you wake up, you are going to have a different mindset. Your mental health, the way that you treat yourself in mental health and your mindset should be like brushing your teeth. You get up in the morning, you brush it, well, except for one person sat at the back, but we sit there. I was sat there earlier and I was like that. Oh, that sounds cool, that bit. But no, it's not actually. So the thing is, when we get up in the morning, shit, shower, shave, all those type of things there. But actually, your mental health should form part of that. You should have a procedure in place. Now, one of the first things I am going to say is about getting your mindset right. I did mention a guy earlier called Emil Coué. If there's conflict between the emotion and the intellect, the emotion will always win. He also said, every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. Anyone ever heard that before? Has anyone here ever spent a copious amount of money on self-hypnosis courses? Everyone heard of self-hypnosis? Self-hypnosis is about what you tell yourself. You can go out there and go buy self-hypnosis courses, but the best thing to recognize is if you tell yourself you're shit, guess what's going to happen? If you tell yourself you're great, look at Donald Trump, guess what happens? Yeah? If you sit there all day long and telling yourself, I'm shit, I'm shit, I'm shit, I'm shit, I'm shit, I'm shit, guess what? Now at this point, I would go over to doing something else, but Captain Marconi's nicked it, so I can't do that one today about jam jars. But the key thing is that when we're working with mental health, I want you to look at it like a sink. When something tragic happens in our life, we tend to pull the plug out and the water starts to whir at the top, nice and slowly. If we leave it and don't put that plug back in or stop what's going on, what happens? It's faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster until eventually we get drained out completely. Your job is to stop that going in. I am not here, by the way, to sit here and say, ignore the doctors or do anything like that. If you are on prescribed medication or anything like that, you continue until your doctor's doing it. What I'm now going to teach you now will support that to allow you to start doing this. Because if your internal mechanism is going, I'm in a shit job, I fucking hate the boss, he's shit, that's crap, all of those type of things, guess what you're doing? Your little Peppa Pig's not working properly. Your little Peppa Pig is not firing on all cylinders. So if you wake up in the morning and you do something like not try, I'm not going to try and do this today, I will do this today, it will change your mindset. The other thing that I want to bring up to you as well is Chinese acupressure, like I mentioned a minute ago. On your part, in your body is a bit like the wiring in this building and the wiring at home. I walk up to a light switch and I turn it off, all the lights go out. Your body is similar. Who here has experienced trauma before or something that's happened in their life and then gained an ailment straight afterwards, like a lower back problem, knee injury, anything like that? There's a thing and a theory called The Body Keeps the Score, another book by Bessel van der Kolk, and that, if you don't read all of it, it's called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. The body keeps the score. A lot of people think trauma's stored up here. It's not. I work with post-trauma on a daily basis, and you can watch it, by the way. Captain Marconi can show you some of the videos. He can send you out the videos if you're interested in watching me strip trauma out of people, quickly as well. Not always the best way, but showing people how to do it in the way that I do it. The key thing is that the body keeps the score. Whenever I work with anybody, it's not up here. It's here. It's in your body. When you start looking holistically at your body in that way, in that the trauma is being stored inside your body, not in the grey matter, then you'll start to notice. You'll start noticing as you get older, ailments and stuff like that. Something may happen, and I've had people before where they've had a backache, and I've brought them in and I've done a session with them, and all of a sudden the bereavement's come up from like 15 years ago. But by clearing up and changing the perception of that, of changing the perception of the bereavement, it then changes the way we feel about things. Because your body will react to your imagination. Simple demonstration. I want everybody just to put your stuff down, put your hands out in front of you like so. I'm going to show you how powerful your imagination is. It's not funky, it's not going to do anything to you. Just close your eyes, just trust me for a second, just close your eyes. Just only imagine now that I've placed a big, fat, dirty dog shit on your hand now. Put that dog shit in your hand, feel it, feel the warmth, bring it up to your nose. Just imagine bringing it up to your nose and stick your tongue on that dog shit right now. Just imagine licking that dog shit. 3, 2, 1, open your eyes. Now, it's quite interesting, actually, isn't it? How many people were sitting there going, fucking bull, like that, going, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And then they're going, I was watching faces then. Put your hands out in front of you again. Where's the dog shit? There is no dog shit. All your fears, your phobias, your anxieties, your stress and strains are all part of your imagination. If you look at the way, if I was to do it another way with a lemon and get you to imagine squeezing a big lemon above your mouth, into your mouth like that, the first thing is your mouth's going to go like that. And then it's going to go, no, I don't want it because it's sharp, it's bitter and I don't want it. And then you can do that and then open your eyes and there is no lemon. It's the same as your fears and your phobias. They're all in your imagination. Post-trauma is all about imagination. Yes, there are physical things that come with it because after what's gone on with it. However, the key thing is that most of your fears, your phobias, your anxieties, your stress and strains are all coming from your imagination. Let me come back to the beginning. Wakey, wakey. That wasn't real. That was my imagination kicking in with my fight, flight, freeze mechanism. It wasn't real. It's my imagination. And as soon as you get that in your big coconut, that most of the stuff that you're going through is imagined, it's about changing the perceptions of them. And once you change the perceptions of the way that you look at it, and instead of watching a fire and standing in the fire and feeling like you're burning, or this is where I came back to suffering, you can take a choice and step out of the fire and look at the fire as a third person. Does that make sense? You don't have to be in the fire to appreciate it. And I can't remember who put it up a little while ago. I think it was the guys. You can walk in the rain, you can be in the rain, but you're not the rain. Yeah? Same principle. If you're in the fire or in the rain, then you're going to get piss wet through. But if you step out of it and look at it as a shower coming down over there, or you look at it as a fire over there, then guess what? So that brings me on to different types of therapy. And I don't mind. I really don't mind where you go with this. But what I will say is, and I'm just going to say before I go into some techniques, DCMH is probably doing a great job for you. However, I just want to say one thing. It is not the be-all and end-all. I see people from Rock Barracks who are private. They are from the army, but they're private clients who come to see me on a private basis because they've been through the process, and even Captain Marconi doesn't even know about this. They've been through the process, but have gone, I want to go try that, but the army won't let me do it. And I couldn't care less, right? And it's the same as what the gent said at the back. I'm just going to cover that about their presentation earlier, about they found God, they found Christ. If that is the way that they've resolved their issues in life and that purpose and giving them it back, brilliant. If you think there's little green men on the moon that sit there spinning around and controlling this, and you think that's going to happen and it makes you feel happy and it works, that's great, right? If you think Reiki does, that's great. If you think spiritualism does, that's great. If you think hypnosis does, that's great. There's many different modalities out there from what you're being offered. I would say seek out and find out if something's not working, it doesn't mean that you're broken. Remember I said I had CBT and counselling, and I thought that my life had come to an end. I'm now going to teach you something now. I'm going to teach you something right now that was the start of the process for me to get off my arse and do something. And I'm now going to show you now about your little Peppa Pig. So everyone on the camera as well, you can join in. On your hand, if you just put everything down for a minute, I'm just going to show you your Peppa Pig. You've got what's called here the karate chop point, okay? This is a fatty bit, right? And all I want you to do is I just want you, all of you, it's up to you, I'm not going to force feed you, right? I just want you to do this. I want you to just experience your Peppa Pig. That's all I want you to do. Just tap the fatty bit. If you don't want to play, that's fine, but this is going to be an experiential thing where you're going to feel it. And I want you just to hit it a little bit, tap it a little bit harder for me. Okay. And I just want you to do this for me. Just repeat after me, I can do this. Do it in your head, I can do this, I will do this. I can do this, I will do this. I can do this, I will do this. Anyone who thinks that this isn't right, or you think this isn't for me, because I'm in the army and I'm a big roughy tufty, I've been at Hereford and done this, and I've been to Poole and done this, And I've worked with several agencies across the world, and I've worked with SWAT officers from LAPD and done this. Exactly what you're doing now. Swap hands and do it on the other hand. I told you about light switches a little while ago. Those light switches are all around your body. And if you do this, and just go like that, I can do this, I will do this, I can do this, I will do this, I can do this, I will do this, I can do this. What you will find is after you've stopped tapping and put your hands out in front of you, you'll feel your Peppa Pig in your fingertips. Can you feel the electricity buzz going through your hands? Anyone not get it? Anyone not get it? Yeah? Just, you can do it later on. But the point being is my hands are tingling right now. The point being is when you get up in the morning, as part of your ritual, I can do this, not I'm going to try and do this and I'm a shit. I'm shit, I'm crap. Sergeant Major fucking hates me and I'm shit in the squadron, I have to make fucking tea all day long. All those type of things there that are going on in your head, because it happens. We had this the other day, didn't we? We had somebody at Rock Barracks the other day. Anyway, so the key thing is that when we've got this, change it. Change it to I can do this, I will do this. I'm going to make a career of it, I'm going to do this, I am going to do this. I am going to do this CFT, this BFT, whatever it is you've got planned for that day. I am going to do this training to the best of my ability. Because the moment you change it to try, then guess what happens? When you wake up in the morning, if you have that mindset of I can do this and I will do this, and I can do this, I am going to do this. I had people saying to me, you're not getting up Everest, you fat lard. And I'm like, no, I am. No, I am. In 2 years' time, I will summit Everest. I will. I've already been up there, I don't know how many times now, but I've been up to Base Camp 2, and I never wanted to summit, by the way. I've been going up to test my body for altitude and stuff like that before I throw an enormous amount of money at some Sherpas. But on the same token, I'm preparing myself for that day that I get to the top of there. And I'm preparing it now. And I will do it. I know I will do it. It's as simple as you'll probably see a news report in a couple of years' time. English person at the top of the hill. But on the same token, I will do it. Even though some people are going, yeah, you fat bastard, you never do it. It doesn't take long for me to train up, to be quite honest, to do it. But I will do it, and I know on my 50th, I am going to go do it. Simple as. I've made my mind up. I've already told myself. I'm prepping myself by going to Everest Base Camp every year. We go up with the Sherpas onto the Khumbu Icefall, all of that type of stuff. But it's something I want to do. There's another stupid thing that I want to do as well, and that's swim the channel. I don't know why, but I will swim the channel. I will do that. I am of that mindset. And I want you to have that mindset too. Not to swim the English Channel, not to climb Everest, not to do any, but your own personal things. How many people, don't put your hands up. This is something I want you to process. How many people have lost their purpose? I can guarantee you now, a lot of you in the room may have lost your purpose. Does that make sense? And I think what you need to do is to goal drive yourself. You need to have something to look for, to drive for. Whether it be being the OC of a squadron, whether it be being the RSM, whether it be being a troopie. Whatever it is, wherever your goal, whatever your desire is. Whether it's just to get sergeant and start your own business up out in Civvy Street. But what is your goal? What is your driver? Because if you don't have a purpose, then guess what? It's like shooting shotgun. And that's all you're going to do. What you need to do is have a point of line where you're going to go. You need to have a point of reference. You need to have that compass up. Where are you going? And sometimes we don't know where it is. I expect the OC or Captain Marconi or the RSM either didn't have an igloo where their careers were going to start when they first started out all those years ago. But then something happened and they thought, actually, this could fucking well happen. This could happen. But the point being is that if once they had direction, they knew where they were going to go. But now, it's the same as that old. When you get to the top of a mountain, you say, "I'm going to get to the top of that mountain." But then when you get to the top of that mountain, what's next? Another mountain. Because you've got another journey to go after that. And that's going to have its trials and tribulations. But that's what life is. Life's about that. There's one thing I'm just going to do with you. That'll do for tapping, because I think people are getting irritable and want their dinner.
The senior engineering cohort going to come away, so they've got transport to get to Woodbridge for a
2 minutes?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. In fact, what we'll do is, I won't bother doing it. I was going to do some metaphorical stuff. There's a thing called metaphorical journeys, metaphorical stories, by the way. And what I will do is I will leave you with this. Is just take a nice big deep breath for me. Breathe out, close your eyes. I'm not going to do anything funky with you. I just want you to follow along with this storyline with me. And everyone on the camera, just close your eyes for a moment if you want to, and just take this on. And this will help all of you for in the future. Metaphorical stories and meta journeys are all about telling a story. We as humans love stories. We love them. I want you to imagine, just imagine, only imagine now with that powerful imagination right now, that you're stood on a grassy knoll, a grass field. Just imagine, only imagine now that there's two monks. These two monks are from a pilgrimage. They're from a place where they're not allowed to talk to women. They're not allowed to touch women. They're not allowed to go near women. These monks are on a pilgrimage, and they're going on a pilgrimage to wherever they're going to this next town. And they're walking along the stream. They're walking along, trying to find a point on this river to cross. And for hours and hours, these monks are just walking along, and they're just looking for this place. These monks are talking away about themselves, repeating things, and talking about what they've said about their pilgrimage. These two monks know that they're not allowed to talk or touch the women, but however, it's been raining. And as they're walking along the riverbank, they notice that the river's been flooded. The river's been flooded, and as they come to a point where they want to cross, there's a young lady. And without any thought, the elder monk picked up the young lady, carried her across the river, placed the young lady down, nodded, and walked off, and they both carried on their pilgrimage. For hours and hours and hours, the younger monk sat there berating, absolutely berating the elder monk. Why did you do it? Why did you do it? Why? Why? Why have you done it? You've done this, you've done that. Why have you did this? You've let us down. For years, we've been talking about this. We should never do this. You should never have done it. Several hours passed by, this younger monk berating the older monk, until eventually the older monk stops and turns and looks at the younger monk and says, I put down that young lady several hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? Ladies and gentlemen, when you're ready, just open your eyes. Metaphorical stories. How much shit are you carrying around that you don't need anymore? That passed hours, weeks, and months ago. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to say thank you very much to the OC for everyone's attention throughout the day, especially for listening. I really do hope that you take away some nuggets from everybody today. And it's okay not to be okay. And on that note, my name's Carl Swift, and I'm a mental welfare coach.